Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
It is my pleasure to welcome you to Temple Emeth and to the Rabbi Louis J. Siegel Sanctuary here in Teaneck, New Jersey, and to welcome you to our Shabbat Evening Service. This evening, we will be marking Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass. We'll be speaking a little bit about that name itself and hearing a firsthand account of what happened that night 83 years ago from Peter Adler, a witness to those events. We will also hear the music of Temple Emeth. They've prepared some special songs in honor of Kristallnacht that they'll sing later in the service. And they've also prepared a couple of more familiar songs from our liturgy. And I am told that you are all encouraged to sing along with Temple Emeth. Any song you know the words to, they are here not just to sing for us, but to sing with us. And they encourage our participation as they sing. We like to take a moment at this time to make sure everyone knows how the service works. So if you're sitting here in the sanctuary, I encourage you to find a copy of Mishkan Tefillah, our Siddur that we'll be using during the service. And if you are watching us on live stream, I'd like to welcome you to our live stream service and tell you that if you have a copy of Mishkan Tefillah at home, now is the perfect time to bring it to the computer or the screen. If you don't have a copy of Mishkan Tefillah, then I invite you, especially if you have access to a second device, to go to our live stream page at emeth.org/livestream and to scroll down to where it says to access the Siddur prayer book. Click on where it says Mishkan Tefillah for Shabbat weekdays and festivals, and that will lead you to a flipbook edition of our Siddur. You'll be able to follow along with all of the songs and prayers on all the same pages that we'll be using this evening. I'd like to take a moment to welcome members of our congregation into the Rabbi Louis J. Siegel Sanctuary. It's nice when people watch on live stream, but it is even nicer when you are here in person. And so I want to say Bruchim Habaim, and how nice it is that we've gathered together. Our service begins at this time with the lighting of our Shabbat candles. And so for the honor of the candle lighting, which is found on page 120 and preceded by an opening reading, it is my pleasure to call upon Eleanor Bookbinder.
These lights are only flickering flames, yet flames illumine our uncertain steps. Flames purify and renew, soften and refine. They brighten and make warm. Flames remind us of Sabbaths long past and of their beauty that delighted our hearts. May they inspire us to work for the great Sabbath of peace. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav V'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We continue now with our Kaddish for Shabbat evening, which is found on page 123 and preceded by an opening reading. Our honoree for Kiddush this evening is Sam Groner, and I ask you, if you're able, to please rise.
As evening falls, we give thanks for the blessings of the past week, for life and strength, for work and rest, for home, love, and community. As we enjoy this bounty, may we be inspired to bring goodness into the lives of others. We raise a cup of wine in gratitude for the miracle of creation and for the gift of this day of rest. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratza banu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'vratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techila למקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. אמן. לחיים.
Shalom. Please be seated. We turn now in our Siddur to page 126. As we open our tefillah, our prayer, with an English reading, I invite you to read with me. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. We continue now with our opening song. Our opening song will be led by Temple Emeth, and as I said a moment ago, it is so nice that we have come to sit together and to join together as a congregation, both in person and online, and to mark this, we join in singing Hine Ma Tov.
Shabbat Evening Service.
Our service continues as we turn to page 143. Page 143 offers an excerpt from the book of Genesis, which, if you come to services every so often here, as we use Mishkan Tefillah, it is an excerpt that is no doubt familiar to you. But this week, it is not just an excerpt from the Torah, it is an excerpt from this week's Torah portion, Parshat Vayetze. And so that gives it, I hope, extra meaning because it connects us not just to our patriarch Jacob and to this holy moment that he has in his solitude, but it connects us to the Torah cycle and the overall message of the Torah as a text that guides our lives each and every week. We read together. And Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. Coming upon a certain place, he passed the night there, for the sun was setting. Taking one of the stones of the place, he made it his headrest as he lay down in that place. He dreamed, and lo, a ladder was set on the ground, with its top reaching to heaven. And lo, angels of God going up and coming down on it. And lo, Adonai stood up above it and said, I, Adonai, am the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. The land on which you are lying I will give to you and to your descendants. And your descendants shall be like the dust of the earth, and you shall spread out to the west and the east and the north and the south. Through you and your descendants all the families of the earth shall find blessing. And here I am with you. I will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this soil. I will not let go of you as long as I have yet to do what I have promised you. Waking from his sleep, Jacob said, Truly Adonai is in this place, and I did not know it. He was awestruck and said, How awe-inspiring is this place. This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven.
Yitgadol v'yitgadash shemei Rabbav Ve'almad yivrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei V'chayechan u'v'yamechan u'v'chayei T'chol beit Yisrael Bagala u'v'zman kariv V'imiru Amen Yehish mei Rabba mivarach Le'olam olam me'olamaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitbar v'yitroma v'yitnaseh V'yitadar v'yitala Shemei d'Kedusha b'richu Leila min kol birchata v'shirata Tushvichata v'nechemata Da'amiran be'alma V'imiru Amen.
We continue on page 146. Please rise if you are able for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevarach Baruch Adonai HaMevarach Le'olam Va'ed
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim b'chochma poteach sha'arim Uvitvuna mishanei itim, umachalif et hazmanim, umisader et akochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtsono. Borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil ben yom uvein layla, Adonai tzvaot shemo. El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai HaMa'ariv Aravim. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed.
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We turn on our Siddurim to page 157 as we read together in English at the top of the page. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there, except by joining hands, marching together.
Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kadesh, nora tehilot osei v'le, nora tehilot osei v'le. Malchutecha ra'u v'anecha, bokei hayam livnei Moshe, Zeili anu ve'amiru Adonai Malach Adonai Malach Le'olam Va'ed V'nemar kifad Adonai et Yaakov Lo min chazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Kal Yisrael.
We read together on page 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up, waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporeis sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam brit olam beini uvein b'nei Yisrael ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש.
We turn in our Siddur to page 164, where we find the Tefillah. Please rise if you are able for the Tefillah.
Adonai, sefatai tiftachu fi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor v'Hanara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim v'Konei Akol, V'zocher chasdei avot v'imahat, u'mevii geula livnei v'neihem, leman shemo be'ava, melech ozer, u'mashiach u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechayei akol atarav le'oshia, Mashiv haruach umorid hagashem, mechalkel chayim bechesed, mechayei akol berachamim rabim, somech noflim verofech holim, umatir asurim, umekayem emunato, lishenei afar, michamocha bal gburot, Umida melech, melech memit, umchayeh, umatmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atah lachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechayei akol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kdoshim b'chol yom yalalucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Please be seated. Our service continues on page 177. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us, we mortals that you take note of us? You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the world. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha, lecha na'eh lehodot. We turn the page and we join together in a prayer for peace. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of every land. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Eternal One, who blesses our people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamivarech et amo Yisrael. Ba shalom. We take a moment now for Tefillat Halev, the opportunity to offer to God the prayer of our hearts. Inspirational readings for this time are found on pages 180 and 181. We continue now with Seder Kriyat Torah, our service for the reading of the Torah, which is found in your Siddur on page 363. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the strangers in your cities, to hear, to learn, to revere Adonai your God, to observe faithfully the words of this Torah, and let their children who do not yet know it hear, that they too may learn to revere Adonai your God. We continue in the middle of the next page. Please rise. Justice, goodness, and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, God will Adonai ti, Adonai Shema Yachdav. Lecha Adonai HaGedira, YaGivera, YaTiferet, YaNetzach, YaHod. Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz, Ki chol b'shamayim u'va'aretz. Lecha Adonai HaMelech, Yadei Nosei L'chol L'rosh.
Please be seated. This week's Torah portion is Parashat Vayetze. It is found in the book of Genesis, and it is really the first Torah portion where we encounter our patriarch Jacob as an adult. As a youth, he coerced his brother into selling his birthright. He stole his brother's blessing. Following that, he was threatened. And he and his mother felt he had to flee. And so Parashat Vayetze takes place on Jacob's first night in his life when he is completely alone. And this experience is a life-changing one for him. He has a dream which reflects the fact that God is with him and God is going to maintain the promises that God has made. And he also understands that this kind of experience with God can sanctify not only a person, but can sanctify a place. And he wakes up from the dream and says, this is none other than the house of God, and this is the gateway to heaven, referring to the way that he encountered God in this place. So you can follow along as I read from the very beginning of Parashat Vayetze. As I mentioned, you've already heard the translation from earlier in our service as we read from the Siddur. And now you can hear the original. Isn't it always best in the original? So I invite you, if you're here in the sanctuary, to turn in the Torah commentary books to page 194. If you are watching at home and you have one of our revised Torah commentary books, it is found on page 195. And to honor the Torah with the Aliyah, it's my pleasure to call upon Deborah Veach. Okay, so Deborah, we have to hear your voice into that microphone. So put your hand right here. And we are ready.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bochar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'torah.
Amen. Amen. Vayetze Yaakov mibe'er Shava, Vayelech Charana, Vayivka b'makom, Vayalen sham kiva hashemesh, Vayikach me'avnei hamakom, Vayasem mirashotav, Vayishkav b'makom hahu, Vayachalom, V'hinei sulam mutzav artza v'rosho magia hashamayma, V'hinei malachei Elohim olim v'yordim bo, V'hinei Adonai nitzav alav, Vayomar Ani Adonai Elohei Avraham Avicha V'Elohei Yitzchak Haaretz asher ata shochev aleha lecha etnena ulezarecha v'haya zarecha ka'afar haaretz ufaratzta yama v'kedma v'tzafona v'anegba v'nivrechu v'cha kol mishpechot ha'adama uvizarecha v'hinei anochi imach ushmarticha b'chol asher telech v'hashevoticha el ha'adama hazot ki lo ezobecha ad asher im asiti et asher dibarti lach vayikatz Yaakov mishnato Vayomer achen yesh Adonai b'makom hazeh v'anochi lo yadati vayira vayomar manora hamakom hazeh ein zeh ki im beit Elohim v'zeh sha'ar hashamayim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher natan lanu et Torah Emeth v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. You can come back to your seat. This time our thoughts turn to those in need of healing as we prepare to offer a prayer for healing, which is found on page 371 of your Siddur. If you are watching us on live stream and you're thinking of someone in need of healing, I invite you to enter the name of your loved one in the chat or comment section of the live stream platform. And if you're here in the sanctuary, I invite you to share the name of your loved one in need of healing out loud or in your heart. As a congregation, we pray for our members and their loved ones in need of healing. Their names will be visible on your screen as we join together now in singing the Mishaberach.
And let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imoteinu mikol habracha lovoteinu
continue now with the lifting and dressing of the Torah, which is found at the bottom of page 370. Please rise if you are able for Hagbah and Galila. We remain standing as we turn now to page 374, as we prepare to return the Torah to the Ark. Yehallelu et Shem Adonai ki niskav shemo levado.
Adoret v'shamayim v'yorem keren li'ama tehillah lechol Hasidav livnei Yisrael am kirava. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Ki lakachtom natati lachem torati al tazovu. Etzrayim hi lamachazikim ba v'tomcha meushar deracha darchinam v'chol netivotah shalom. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Kaddish Kaddish Yamenu Kaddish Yamenu Kikadem.
Please be seated. This week marks the 83rd anniversary of Kristallnacht, translated as the Night of Broken Glass. Kristallnacht was not a solitary or isolated event in any way. The violence and intimidation of Kristallnacht must be understood in the context of the increasing infringements on the rights of Jews and the Jewish community in Germany in the months leading up to November 9th, 1938. In the summer of 1938, raids were conducted against Jewish cafes and nightclubs. In August of that year, a law was passed requiring Jews to have Jewish first names from an approved list or otherwise be assigned one by the state. Jews were subject to increase scrutiny by the police, and a deliberate double standard was imposed for minor offenses like jaywalking. And social ostracism, whether in the workplace or the neighborhood, became commonplace, often leading to harassment, intimidation, and physical abuse. By the fall of 1938, every Jew in Germany felt like a second-class citizen, and every non-Jew witnessed it happen. Concurrent to these actions against Jews whose families had lived in Germany for a long time, the Nazis also began persecuting Jews of Polish ancestry. In October 1938, the Nazis implemented the Polen Aktion, or Polish Operation, essentially deporting all Jews of Polish descent. Those first subject to the order were transferred into Poland. The rest were sent to camps along the Polish border to live in deplorable conditions. It was this action that so upset Herschel Greenspan, a 17-year-old living in Paris whose parents had been deported. He entered the German embassy on November 7th and assassinated an embassy employee, shooting him 5 times. Kristallnacht, a nationwide pogrom, started 2 days later. While the Nazi government said it was in response to Greenspan, historians understand that the assassination was merely a pretext to unleash a planned wave of violence amid a backdrop of increasing persecution. When his family heard about the assassination, witness and archivist Kurt Jakob Bal-Kaduri wrote, "We now knew that terrible things would happen in the days ahead, but no one knew what. No one could conceive of what was to take place." On the night of November 9th, the perpetrators killed approximately 100 Jews and hauled off 30,000 more to concentration camps, 12,000 from Berlin alone. They burned down and demolished hundreds of synagogues. They shattered the storefront glass of about 7,500 Jewish stores and businesses, hence the name Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass. The escalation of violence in November of 1938 is typical of autocratic regimes. The regime marginalizes a group of people, often claiming they are violent or otherwise deficient. The discriminatory laws inflict pain, but it usually stops short of bloodshed. Because of the oppression, someone snaps and commits an act of violence. The state responds with overwhelming force, using an isolated incident to justify a much broader action. The same thing happened during World War I, during Jim Crow in the American South, and in other times and other places. It is easy to see commonalities, for example, with the Tulsa massacre 100 years ago, especially in the targeting of businesses owned by people presumed to be of a lower social standing. Kristallnacht, because it was so well documented and because it is commemorated every year at this time, is the best known of these state actions. It is worth pausing at this time to consider the very name Kristallnacht. The word is German, meaning night of broken glass, and it was coined by the Nazis themselves. It is a unique name, and every educated Jew and everyone knowledgeable about the history of the Holocaust knows to what it refers. But it is also a troublesome name, because it emphasizes property damage over the murder and incarceration of innocent people, and it emphasizes the broken glass, which is relatively easy to replace, over the complete destruction of thousands of buildings. A better word would be pogrom, but even that does not capture the full impact of November 9th. Most pogroms were isolated to a single city or town. Kristallnacht was nationwide. Most pogroms, even if they had the support of local authorities, were spontaneous or planned on short notice. Kristallnacht was an official policy of the state and involved significant forethought. So while no one person or congregation can rename Kristallnacht, let us understand the deficiencies of this name when we use it, and let us resolve to use words that capture the true nature of other unjust historical events, that the perpetrators wishing to evade accountability do not have access to the escape hatch of semantics. Let this be a lesson of this commemoration, and every time we say, never again. We are honored at this time to hear from Peter Adler, who was a 7-year-old boy living in Frankfurt on Kristallnacht. We call upon him at this time to offer a personal remembrance of that day.
Thank you, Rabbi. November 9th, 1938. It's been a long journey, complete with miracles, pitfalls, and a pandemic. The last few years have been extremely difficult for all of us. And the last few steps leading up to the Bima have been difficult for me. But we're here. I'm here. And I'm very grateful for that privilege. I wonder if you join me in singing the Shehecheyanu at this time. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehecheyanu v'hiyanu lasman haseh. Thank you. I remember the horror of Kristallnacht. The night of broken glass that took place in Germany. For me, it was just in Germany, on November 9th, 1938. My problem is my eyes. They're going. Not being aware of the events of the day, I left my school, the Frankfurt Jewish Philanthropien, and went to my friend's house to play. Later, I left school, I left his house and walked home. I was thinking about a 7-year-old kid walking around Frankfurt at that time. It's just incredible. Anyhow, I found my mother and brothers standing on the street corner of our street, and my mother had looked extremely pale and extremely angry, I guess, because she was worried about me. "Where have you been?" she exclaimed. And looked, when I see her on the corner, playing with my friend, and I innocently said, not knowing what had transpired that day. That night, my Uncle Morris, my father's brother, hid under my mother's bed as the stormtroopers made their rounds from apartment to apartment. Luckily, or fortunately, they had a record that there was no man living in the house. My father had died in 1932, so it was just my mother and my brother and I who lived there. My grandfather, Jacob, lived down the street, so he wasn't in the apartment either. The next day, my mother had, my mother discovered that the windows of her little dry goods store had been smeared with slogans and swastikas, which she had to stand in the street to wash off to the jeers of the neighborhood, including some of her and she had to stand in the street and wash them off. Some of them were her customers. My mother's door window was just the tip of the Kristallnacht iceberg. All over Germany, and any Jewish business suffered, and the synagogues were burnt, and the Torah scrolls were burnt. I remember that day as a very terrifying experience. I'll never forget it. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, not only for serving as a witness this evening to the events of Kristallnacht, but for your resilience. And I think that's one of the most moving times I've ever recited the Shechianu, because it is a testament not only to the fact that you've witnessed this, but that you maintain your faith and you're able to see the role of God in keeping us alive and bringing us to this day. So Yasher Koach, and thank you. At this time, we call upon Kol Emet to offer a musical commemoration of Kristallnacht. The song they sing now is called Mi Yitneni, and the lyrics translate as follows: Who will give me wings, even wings of the smallest bird? Endlessly will I wander to find peace for my wounded soul. Kol Emet now leads us in Mi Yitneni.
So
Our service continues now with the Aleinu, which is found in your Siddur on page 586 at the bottom of the page. Please rise if you are able for the Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo sanu kigoyei haratzot, velo samanu kimishpat adama, shelo sam chelakenu karhem, vikar aleinu kichor almanam, va'anachanu koreim, ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר דהיה אדוני למלך בארץ ביום ההוא ביום
We remain standing as we turn to page 595 for a reading to introduce the Mourner's Kaddish. It is hard to sing of oneness when the world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone and naught but memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. But memory can only tell us what we were in company with those we loved. It cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become. Yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and words, and what they did is part of what we have become. We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world. In each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one whose life now ended brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose. This Shabbat, we remember those for whom we are in the Shloshim, 30-day period of mourning: Cynthia Glazer, aunt of Richard Bookbinder and Eleanor Bookbinder; Sandra Woods, friend of Eleanor Bookbinder; Patrick Paul Laverty, remembered by Vera Horowitz; Honora Kaplan, sister of Mary Jane Tucker; Gloria Teitelbaum Moskowitz, mother of Leslie Marsilio and Sherry Rodriguez; Candido Bejarano, father of Maggie Wallach; and Sandra Chellimer, cousin of Mark Chellimer. We remember as well those whose yahrzeits occurred this week: Jeffrey Bergman, Sharon Bernardick, Lynn Bloomberg, Thomas Allen Blumenfeld, Alan Jeffrey Breston, Mary Canali, Ralph Krolick, Joseph Farb, Harry Filowitz, Harry Friedland, Stanley Goldberg, Eldridge Greenlee, Frida Hecht, Rose Maslin Nieder, Sarah Krappel, Miriam Lee, Debbie Lukowitz, Lawrence Lipsitz, Donald Litwin, Jessica Rosenberg Petrello, Sarah Posner, Ellen A. Reich, Marvin Rosenbaum, Michael Sirota, Beatrice Silberberg, Shirley Solon, Harry Spiegel, Sarah Strassman, Elaine Thayer, Morris Ullman, Giselle Weissman, Golda Weisbard, Mildred Weinberg, Florence Witkin, June Wittershine, Max Wolfson, and Seymour Yagelwell. And as we observe Kristallnacht at this service, we remember the names of 6 of the 6 million who perished in the Holocaust: Hella Brand of Poland, age 18, Rachela Brand of Poland, age 19, Feivel Fuchsen of the Soviet Union, age 26, Yaakov Rubinstein of Poland, age 43, Sheva Stern of the Soviet Union, age 59, and Yitzhak Schmidt of Czechoslovakia, age 60. We remember them all. We take them into our hearts with our own as we turn now to page 598 and we join together in the life-affirming words of the Kaddish. Yitzgadal v'yitzgadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'yizman kariv imru, amen. Yehi shmei rabba mivorach leolam ulamei almaya. Yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha brechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu be'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, amen. Please be seated. It is my pleasure at this time to call upon Alan Winters, a member of our Board of Trustees, to offer Shabbat greetings and announcements.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. On behalf of the Board of Trustees, it's my pleasure to welcome you to our Shabbat Evening Service. Thank you to Peter Adler and Cole Emeth for bringing extra meaning to our observance of Kristallnacht this evening. This Sunday, the congregation is invited to our temple sanctuary for a memorial service to honor the life of longtime member Richard Koffler, beloved husband of Florette Koffler. Refreshments will be served in the social hall. The service will start at 11 o'clock a.m. Proof of vaccination is required to attend in person and will also be shown on the temple's live stream page. The first Hanukkah candle is lit on Sunday evening, November 28th. We hope you'll celebrate the Festival of Lights with the community at the following times. Wednesday, December 1st at 5:15, our religious school celebration will be shown on live stream. Friday, December 3rd at 7:30, we'll light the Hanukkah as part of our family service. Sunday, December 5th at 4:30, we'll gather in the parking lot. Each family is encouraged to bring their own Hanukkah to light. We'll have a raffle and enjoy latkes from Ember by Smokey Joe. Eitz Hayim, our junior choir, will sing at all of these events. Look for details in an upcoming email. Thank you to this evening's volunteers in the live stream control room. Gary Richards, Mike Eastman, and Dan Fersheim are at the controls tonight. Shabbat Shalom.
As we prepare for our closing song, I also want to express words of gratitude to Tom Mastachio, our accompanist, whose work at the keyboard helped beautify all of the music that we heard this evening, both from Temple Emeth and the music the cantor sang as well. It is my pleasure to call upon Temple Emeth one last time to offer our closing song. Our closing song is Ofen Pripachik. We have reached the end of our service. If you have been watching on live stream, you have just a moment more to post something in the chat or comment section of the live stream platform. Perhaps you would like to offer a tribute to Peter Adler or to Temple Emeth or a Shabbat greeting. And while our folks on live stream are doing that, I'll speak to those who've gathered in person. We have an Oneg Shabbat waiting for us in the social hall. I ask that you keep your mask on while you are getting your food and your beverage and finding a seat at a table, and then you can remove your mask just while you're eating and drinking, and then we ask that you put your mask right back on after you've enjoyed the nosh and the coffee. We do have 3 tables for regular Oneg eating and a 4th table clearly labeled for no eating for people who prefer to keep their mask on for the entire Oneg. So that is waiting for us as we conclude our service. And now we do conclude our service by turning to one another and saying, Shabbat Shalom.